The story starts and we see a woman standing still when suddenly something strange happens. In the days that followed, Daisy began scratching her head in a bizarre way. Not just while working, but even at night when she went to sleep with her boyfriend. Just after a bit of casual conversation, she would unconsciously start scratching her head. Slowly, this habit worsened to the point that Daisy even began using a polishing board and sandpaper to scratch her scalp. It felt like she was trapped in a web of this compulsion. Then one day when she went into the storage room to fetch something, she experienced real danger for the first time. She was just looking through some old stuff when she suddenly heard strange footsteps behind her. As soon as Daisy stepped outside, all the lights suddenly turned on, and the sound of footsteps turned into the painful cries of a woman weeping. Was someone really in trouble inside that storage room? Daisy quickly decided to go inside and check. She slowly moved in, hearing the sound coming from the room on the right. She called out, "Is someone there?" But when she looked down, there was no crying girl. Instead, the room was filled with thousands of crawling ants. Daisy couldn't understand where the ants had come from, when suddenly she looked into the mirror. There was a black shadow standing in the mirror, and then that shadow suddenly lunged at her. Daisy screamed. But the good thing was that it was just the storage room manager. However, now Daisy understood that something very strange was going on. She ran straight home and completely sealed up the old hole with cement and a sheet. But the problem of itching still persisted. And then in the darkness of the night, an ant slowly began crawling into her nose. Daisy was lying on the sofa, gradually drifting off to sleep, when suddenly she felt something strange. Because of the ant crawling inside her nose, she started coughing violently. It felt like she couldn't breathe. But in the very next moment, thousands of ants began emerging from her body. Her hands and feet had gone numb, as if her entire body had come under the control of those ants. But by morning, it was as if nothing had happened. Still, Daisy felt this wasn't an illusion. Something truly horrifying was happening to her. Now these strange events were occurring again and again. She tried searching online but found no answers. Then a few days later, while she was fixing some things, an old photo album suddenly fell off a nearby shelf. When she picked it up, she realized it was an old album of her parents. But her mother died when she was a child. Daisy began flipping through the album to revisit memories of her mother. Suddenly, her eyes fell on a photo of her mother. There were red marks on her mother's hands in the picture. Daisy was shocked. She quickly took out a magnifying glass and looked at the marks closely. They weren't ordinary spots. They were deep scratch marks from excessive itching. Has her mother also gone through the same strange thing? To find the answer to this question, Daisy immediately took out her car and left to meet her father. After her mother's death, her father had completely fallen apart. Although he tried to appear normal on the outside and worked at a nursing home, in reality, he had drowned himself in alcohol. Daisy never wanted to meet her father, but now she had no other option. Her scalp itching problem had become unbearable. She needed some answers from her father. When she asked him about any illness her mother had, he gave a strange response. "It's all a curse." Daisy couldn't believe it. She was asking about a disease, but her father kept talking about a curse. During the conversation, Daisy noticed that her father was also scratching his head repeatedly. Things had become even more confusing. She didn't get any straight answers. Only more questions piled up. With no other option left, she got into her car and started heading home. But then she saw something that chilled her to the bone. Red bloodstains had started to appear on her scalp. Due to constant scratching, her skull had become wounded. Still, she couldn't stop scratching, even while driving. But work had to be done. Most importantly, she was a public speaker, so she went to the studio for her recording. The session started and everything seemed normal. But just a few minutes in, Daisy caught a glimpse of a black shadow on the wall. The next moment, all the lights in the room began to flicker. That shadow had now completely taken over the wall. Darkness began to cloud Daisy's eyes. She seemed to have completely entered a state of confusion. In fear and anxiety, Daisy kept scratching her head, as if someone was forcing her to do it, leaving her with no other option. She ran to the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face. But by then, everyone had already seen what happened. Her boyfriend, who was already worried, began discussing with other co-workers that Daisy should take a few days off from work. That evening, when the two of them got home, he asked her sternly, "What is happening to you?" But Daisy didn't care. She just said, "I'm fine." Her boyfriend tried his best to take care of her, but because of Daisy's cold behavior, they started sleeping separately. Dayanashi had become more cautious now, so she made a special device that would tie her hands completely to prevent her from scratching her head while asleep. But even that proved useless. In the darkness of the night, faint whispers began to echo in the room. Dayanashi listened carefully, but suddenly, the rope she had tied herself with was untied by someone. And then the scariest thing happened. A long, black hand emerged from under the bed. It grabbed Dayanashi's weak arm and forcefully tried to make her scratch her head. Dayanashi was completely frozen, and then her eyes fell on it. It was a pitch-black creature. But as the creature came closer, Dayanashi suddenly woke up. Was it all just a dream, or was something else going on? Dayanashi sat in the hall trying to make sense of everything. She kept looking toward the wall. Ants were still crawling in every corner of the house. She had decided today she would solve this mystery. She picked up a hammer and was just about to hit the wall when suddenly a voice came from behind. Dayanashi turned and saw her father standing right there. She thought maybe her father had come to help her, but he simply handed her a tray of tea and started speaking sweetly, saying, "Drink this tea, you'll feel better." Dayashi didn't think much and drank the tea. But then suddenly her head began to spin. Her vision blurred. Her entire body started to go numb. Before she could understand anything, her father took money from her bag and left. Dayashi was in no condition to do anything, but one thing was certain. Her father definitely knew something about this curse. The next night, under the cover of darkness, Dayashi reached her father's house. She quietly went inside and started searching through the files in the house. The files were filled with old newspapers from years ago. Then she came across a news clipping. It read that a woman had drowned by the lake and died. Dayashi found it strange. Why had her father kept this newspaper clipping so carefully? Just then, water droplets started dripping from the ceiling. Nervously, Dayashi climbed the stairs. As she reached near the window, her whole body went numb. There was something strange in the reflection of the glass. She looked closely and her eyes widened. There was a girl submerged in water in the reflection, and the girl looked like her mother. Slowly, a man emerged from the water and grabbed the girl from behind. Dayashi's breath stopped. Everything has become clear now. Was this the moment when her father had killed her mother? Now Dayashi's heart was filled with rage and hatred. She picked up a nearby dagger and waited for her father to return. As soon as he came home, Daishi was already prepared. She pointed the knife at him and shouted angrily, "Tell me the truth. How did Mom really die?" But her father stood there silently, then slowly began to speak. "Many years ago, when I was a soldier, I saw a girl lying in the mud. She was on the verge of death. That girl was your mother. I brought her back to my village, but later we found out that she was afflicted with a strange disease. Slowly, she infected the entire family. This disease was contagious, and it could pass on for generations. When you were born, your mother began to fear that you would get the disease too. So, she decided to drown you in water and kill you. But I stopped her. I saved you. Your mother then drowned herself in the lake." Daishi couldn't believe her ears. Her mind screamed, "No! This is a lie! Father is hiding the truth!" In anger, Daishi slammed the door shut and stormed out. But the story didn't end there. A few days later, Daishi was about to give a speech on a grand stage. Her confidence shone brightly. The hall echoed with applause. But then suddenly her body started to lose control. She collapsed onto the stage and began rolling around uncontrollably. The audience was shocked. Some couldn't even understand what was happening. Then everything went dark. Daishi's speech remained unfinished. She quickly got into a car and rushed to her father's house. Along the way, every word her father had said kept echoing in her mind. Now she was convinced her father had been telling the truth. But when she reached home, what she saw shook her to the core. Her father was no longer in this world. Daishi didn't know how she could escape this curse now. And then her head began to itch uncontrollably again. He started scratching his head vigorously, and suddenly he felt some white sticky liquid on his hand. He was shocked. "Why is this white stuff coming out of my head?" He gently touched his head and realized there was a large hole in it. Darkness filled Daishi's eyes and he collapsed to the ground. When he opened his eyes, he was in the hospital. The doctor told his boyfriend he needs at least 2 years of rest or his life could be in danger. His boyfriend began taking care of him with complete sincerity. But Daishi's condition continued to deteriorate. His hands started moving uncontrollably, scratching all the time. Then one day, Daishi made a horrifying decision. He deliberately fed his boyfriend a dish laced with drugs. As soon as his boyfriend ate it, he collapsed unconscious on the floor. Daishi dragged him into the bedroom and locked him in. Now he was ready to end this curse himself. He had modified an electric saw he kept at home. Marking his hand, he ran the saw without hesitation. Squelch! His hand was severed and fell to the floor. But the itching wasn't over. Daishi was about to cut off his other hand when suddenly the lights began to flicker. A strange, dark energy spread throughout the room. Ants started swarming from all directions. Just as Daishi looked down, the cursed creature appeared behind him. But it wasn't afraid of Daishi's severed hand. In fact, it grabbed his remaining hand and placed it on the saw, trying to sever that one too. Now Daishi realized, if I don't kill this monster, it will destroy me. He swiftly struck the creature's black hand, picked up the saw, and in one powerful swing, decapitated it. A sticky black liquid spread throughout the room, and the curse was finally over. Actually, it wasn't an ordinary curse, but a type of parasitic organism that lived inside the human body in the form of ants. That's why the itching never stopped. Now everything is over. But was it really over? In the final scene of the film, Daishi and her boyfriend are now parents to a child. From a distance, their family seems completely normal. But then, the camera slowly zooms in on the child's face. And in the end, those same ants can be seen on it. So with this, the story ends here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Also subscribe to this channel for more horror stories like this.